elected as our anthem.
Hello everyone, my name is Jackson Cote. I'm a reporter with MassLive based in Springfield, and I'm out here in downtown Northampton covering a protest that has been organized in the wake of the 2020 election yesterday. About several hundred protesters have gathered out here already. Let me turn the camera. The main organizers of the protest have been members of the Democratic City Committee here in Northampton, and their main message today is count every vote. This is coming amid widespread, demonstrations and efforts to get every vote in the United States counted during the election, amid this sort of uncertainty about who will be the next president of the United States. Right now, nearly every state has been unofficially counted, but we're still waiting on outcomes of some key swing states, including North Carolina, Arizona, Pennsylvania, namely. News outlets have recently called key races in Wisconsin and Michigan for Democrat Joe Biden over Donald Trump, Republican incumbent president. But the path to victory for either candidate still remains a bit uncertain. And amid this uncertainty, the president has announced that he will be announcing or fighting for a recount of votes in Wisconsin. He also said that he will be suing to have votes that are coming in right now to Pennsylvania not be counted. So the protesters who are out here today, many of them are fighting to have every vote counted in the United States. Many of them are trying to ensure a victory for Democratic candidate Joe Biden, former vice president. And so we have pretty prominent members of the community out here tonight, a few Northampton city councilors, as well as state representatives, state senator. We have state representative Lindsay Sabadosa, whose office is out here in Northampton. And we have State Senator Joe Comerford, who also represents this area. We also have just hundreds of residents out here tonight. It's worth noting that there was a protest here earlier today at 3 p.m. That was less focused on the election and more focused on just generally social justice issues. They're seeking another shelter, homeless shelter, to be built in this area. So as you can see, we have protest organizers singing currently. Lyrics of the song referencing Donald Trump, saying, "There's a man going around spreading lies." It's worth noting that there's been quite a bit of misinformation during the election season right now. Most recently on social media, Twitter flagged a few tweets sent out by President Donald Trump referencing ballot counts in specific swing states, saying his statements about the ballot counts were rather misleading.
Yeah, Shirley said that's the last time she has to sing that song at one of our rallies.
Right now, police officers told me that there are about 6 to 8 officers at the scene right now of this protest in downtown Northampton, the heart of the city's business district. We have the main street closed down all the way from King Street down there to Masonic Street up there. And this protest Wednesday night comes on the heel of a rally that was held here of pro-Trump demonstrators over the weekend, where about an equal number of counter-protest gathered to go against the pro-Trump demonstrators. There's several hundred people out during that demonstration over the weekend. And while police officers noted it started off rather peaceful, it later erupted in violence, with one pedestrian saying that they were intentionally hit by a car toward the intersection of King Street and Main Street down here in downtown Northampton, where hundreds of protesters have gathered.
And physical and emotional violence, global embarrassment, Our world getting smaller in our abuse.
There are demonstrations being organized across the state and across the country right now. Many of them fighting for a fair election, for every vote to be counted during this tumultuous time, during this tumultuous election season, when there have been various avenues of voting during the coronavirus pandemic to stave off transmission of the virus. There's been early voting as well as mail-in voting in many states and in-person voting on Election Day yesterday, November 3rd. Ballots are still being counted in some key swing states: Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, North Carolina, Georgia, namely.
Church brothers and sisters, white supremacy, racism, xenophobia, transphobia, sexism, misogyny, and over 230,000 dead wasn't a deal breaker. It wasn't enough to clearly break free from the relationship that is no longer serving us. There is a collective pain that we're all feeling, those of us on the right side of history. And as a Black woman, let me be clear. Black and brown people, we are exhausted. Knowing what we know and how we know it makes this almost unbearable. To have to question our neighbors and friends as to whether or not they see our humanity, or did they vote for someone who literally spews hate, division, and lies without apology, upholding the systems and institutions that literally stomp the breath from our lives. We are tired. I consider myself pretty strong, but I'm exhausted. I'm tired of explaining or having to entertain the rhetoric and counter it over and over again like a broken record. We need to be able to breathe. Shallow breathing is trauma breathing, and literally it's all we get to do. Breathe shallow. I need a deep breath. I need to breathe fully, and I can't. With so much at stake, we can't breathe. Make no mistake, our current president is not the problem. He's a symptom of something much deeper in this country that is on full display for everyone to see. This is the America.
Just a reminder, I'm out here in the heart of downtown Northampton at a protest that has been organized the day after the election out here in Western Mass to fight for every vote to be counted, every ballot to be counted and reported across the country. Many thousands, tens of thousands of ballots are still being counted in many key swing states: Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia. And, you know, protesters out here, their main message is, you know, they're fighting for a fair election. And so we had some viewers just turning in now. There are hundreds of protesters out here, upward of 300 by some estimates. This is the second protest of the day, organized at 5 p.m. One was held 2 hours earlier at 3 p.m. This one is primarily focused on the election outcome, fighting for every vote to be counted.
And again, I pray for a Biden victory, for a breakup from our abuser, for a small moment to breathe, for a step forward towards the healing the deep wounds of this country. We must break free and continue to push for the freedom and liberation of the most impacted and marginalized in our country. We can do hard things, and we can create the country America aspires to be with equity as our biggest value.
Powerful words about the last 4 years and what Trump's unearthed in this country. The next speakers are Marisol Pierce-Bonifaz and Edie Savage. They're students of Pioneer Valley Performing Arts and co-founders and chapter leads of Generation Ratify Amherst, a youth-led group pressing for enactment of the Equal Rights Amendment. The chapter recently participated in the National Day of Banner Drops with a banner saying,
Just to clarify, the goal of this protest, I have some people commenting saying people are protesting the election of an outcome that hasn't come yet, but that's not in fact what they're protesting. They're protesting for ballots to be counted. And right now, many votes are still being counted the day after the election in many key swing states that could determine the next president of the United States. Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, North Carolina, they're all still being counted right now. And so what protesters out here in Massachusetts, in Northampton, in the western part of the state are protesting for is that every vote be counted. I have one viewer asking, you're right, it hasn't happened, the outcome of the election I assume you're referring to, but Trump has lawyers working now to recount. Really? Yes. So just to clarify, Trump is seeking a recount of the ballots in Wisconsin, a state that was narrowly won by Biden, narrowly called for Biden unofficially earlier today. He's calling for a recount there. He's also suing to have ballots that are currently coming into Pennsylvania stop having them counted. Reminder, there are various avenues that have opened up for people to vote this year during the coronavirus pandemic. Mail-in ballots, early voting ballots, many mail-in absentee ballots are still coming in. Those are the ones chiefly being counted right now. And news outlets like the New York Times, the Associated Press have predicted that many of those absentee ballots are in favor of Biden, that they're Democratic ballots in his favor. So we're still waiting for those to be counted. And those could determine some key states, the outcomes of those key states, and who the next president of the United States is. And I'll turn it back to the protest now. Yeah, apologies. I understand.
To use my voice, because although I cannot vote, every single one of us has to fight for a better future. Voter suppression is not just an issue of the past. Even today, 150 years after the 15th Amendment's ratification, 100 years after the 19th Amendment, 55 years after the voting rights signed into law, the right to vote is being suppressed. The occupant in the White House has repeatedly questioned mail-in voting on absolutely no basis, is using tactics of voter intimidation, supporting and inciting violence at the polls, and his party has gone after every measure to make voting easier and safer in this deadly pandemic. And today, amidst thousands of mail-in votes still being counted, he is declaring victory, trying to shun and silence our voices and our votes. We will not stand to the side and allow this injustice and corrupt power to take place. We will not stand to the side and watch, after centuries of fighting for the right to vote, our democracy crumble. We are standing here at events all around the country to demand every vote be counted and every voice be heard. We demand that all mail-in votes be counted, and we will not stand to the side. As Felice Jones and Ruth Bader Ginsburg said in the Basis of Sex movie, we're not asking you to change the country. That's already happened without any court's permission. We're asking you to protect the right of the country to change.
Hello everyone, my name is Eddie and I am the co-chapter lead of Generation Ratify Amherst. Around the middle of June this summer, I was asked to join an organization called Generation Ratify. Without knowing much of anything about it, I said yes and offered to help lead our chapter. I have learned so much. Just a few months ago, I did not even know that there's not anything in the Constitution protecting all people's rights regardless of gender. I saw that there is truly so much work that needs to be done in the world, and I saw, for the first time, that I have a voice to stand up and help. Last weekend, Generation Ratify Amherst had a banner drop in front of the First Churches of Northampton, and around the country, chapters from all over were doing the same. We are taking a stand for our rights in every way we can. I cannot vote this election, but I will use my voice and the rising power of Generation Z to fight. Our president is trying to invalidate our right to vote, the right that we have fought to obtain for so many years. The right to vote has not been an easy one for all people to achieve. In the past, so many have worked tirelessly for their entire lives to be granted one simple right, to have their voices heard and their votes counted. And yet we are still here. We are still protesting, we are still marching, we are still speaking, and we are still fighting for this right that should be a given. I am 14. I have seen 3 presidents in office, I've been alive for no more than a decade and a half. I am not even able to vote, and yet I am here, and I am still fighting. The injustice of voting rights is not fair. Just like gender equality should be a given, just like it should be a guarantee that your vote is counted and your voice is heard. Our country isn't going to save itself. We have waited long enough for that to happen. The people in power will not take their time to hear our voices. They are trying to suppress them for their own personal gain. We have to rise up, we have to do the work they aren't doing, and we have to take a stand for the greater good. That is why I am here. I am fighting for my country's rights, and so are all of you. In every little way we can, in every simple action, to ensure that those who have fought for their entire lives for the right to vote are remembered and honored, and that we do not let this injustice stand for any longer. All votes need to be counted because every single one affects all of us. Each person that could vote and each one of them that did has taken us one step closer to achieving what we have been fighting for all of these years. And now we must keep acting because just voting is not enough. We must make sure that no vote goes unnoticed, no person goes unseen. We must make sure that every one of us is doing everything in their power to help this world. We must make sure that every vote is counted.
You're not young enough to vote now, but in 4 years you will be. And look out. Our next speaker is Maylee Geary. She's a member of Sunrise, a movement of young people united to stop climate crisis and recruiting a volunteer army of thousands to shake up the 2020 election.
I want to start by telling you a little bit about what it means to be a teenage girl. To be quite frank, being a teenage girl right now is scary. It means that when I walk down the street, I'm immediately aware of all of the men around me. It means that when I walk by a man, I check behind me to make sure that he kept walking. It means that I know how to use my keys in self-defense just in case. It means that men who I have never met before judge my body the instant they see me. It means that I have to constantly think about what men think about me, not because I want to be appealing, but because I want to be safe. It means that even the President of the United States won't protect me. It also means that I know the importance of elections. Elections bring me a lot of hope because it means that if enough people care, we can change this. And I know that there are so many people who are working hard to make this change. Everyone who came here today is creating change. Everyone who has phone banked or text banked or even encouraged their friends to vote for Joe Biden has created change. Everyone who voted for Joe Biden is creating change. But we can't stop fighting now. Donald Trump is trying to take away the right to vote from many, many people. He declared victory last night at 3 a.m. before all the results were in. He disregards the votes of millions of people in the country. He refuses to believe that he might not win. In fact, he believes he can bribe the Supreme Court to let him win. We can't let that happen. We must keep fighting to protect women's rights. We must keep fighting to protect people of color's rights and lives. We must keep fighting to protect immigrants at the border. We must keep fighting to protect the middle and working classes. We must keep fighting to protect the climate and make big strides to reverse climate change before it's too late. We must keep fighting to protect the LGBTQ community. We must keep fighting to protect the disabled. We must keep fighting to protect the truth. We must keep fighting to protect our votes. We must keep fighting to protect our democracy. All of that and so much more is on the line. If we give up, we are complacent with the repercussions it has on everyone who is not a straight, cisgendered, wealthy white man. We cannot afford to give up. I'll leave you with this. Joe Biden is the election, Biden will have no chance of winning. We need to make sure that doesn't happen. We are strong and we are willing to fight to protect our democracy. We have a chance to reverse what Donald Trump has done. We must keep fighting.
Noah Freeman Cousins is a student at Northampton High School, and he's a member of the Northampton Youth Commission.
All right, hi everybody. This is inspiring to see you all here after a night that may have been pretty lonely and scary for a lot of us in our houses, on the TV screens or computers. So I think it's good to be in the community at this moment. I'm going to talk for a second just about what we've seen. Sorry, I'm just getting used to this. I'm going to talk for a second about what we've seen over the last day.
So, just a reminder for anybody tuning in right now, my name is Jackson Cote. I'm a reporter with MassLive, and I'm out here in downtown Northampton at the scene of a protest that has gathered of several hundred people who are fighting in favor of a free election according to them, with all votes counted. This comes the day after the November 3rd presidential general election yesterday. And these protesters have come out here in the heart of downtown Northampton, Northampton's business district, young, older folk alike, all out here mainly in support of Joe Biden, Democratic candidate for President Joe Biden, all speaking about mainly about the right to vote. This comes as many ballots remain uncounted in some key swing states, including Pennsylvania, Michigan, North Carolina, Georgia. Nearly all the protesters out here are wearing masks. I've yet to see a protester who is not wearing a mask. This is all happening with the backdrop of the coronavirus pandemic. That's why many ballots remain uncounted, because so many of them were cast via mail, via absentee.
It's a pro-democracy movement, and that's why we're here right now, right?
So those uncounted ballots could determine the next president of the United States, could determine the outcome, which way some of the key states fall during this presidential election.
The current system of government is completely based on white supremacy, heteropatriarchy, and permanent white oligarchical rule.
And so we've had young and older folk alike here, not only gathering to protest, but also speaking at the demonstration. We have a Northampton High School student speaking right now. We also have some key community members out here, including State Senator Joanne Comerford, State Representative Lindsay Sabadosa, a Northampton City Councilor, several others.
This might feel a little bit scary to some of us. We might be very comfortable with being radical. But you know, while we're talking about being radical, I want to mention one thing, which is technically why I'm here to talk, which is the idea of expanding the franchise. I mean, we've seen this year how Donald Trump and the Republicans, and really this has always been their strategy, to systematically prevent Americans from voting, particularly Black Americans, particularly Indigenous Americans, particularly Americans who live in cities, regardless of what skin color or racial identity they may have. But you know, let's hope we can address some of that. But also, I want to talk about what we can do to make sure that we actually don't just defend that franchise, we expand it. I am the leader of the Northampton Youth Commission, which is an organization in Northampton which fights on a lot of progressive fronts, but specifically around lowering our city's voting age to 16. It might sound like a pretty radical idea, as I think all democratic reforms are, but we're really excited about it. It's going to be going to the legislature in January, so we'll have to pass it through the State House. I really hope I can see all of your support there, because we know that 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds, as we just saw from some fantastic speakers before me, are really at the front of these fights. They're fighting for climate justice, they're They're fighting for racial justice. They're fighting for fair wages. They're fighting for education reform. And we know that they need to have a say in our future, just like people over the age of 18 years. So with that, I think I may be over my time, so I'll say goodbye. But thank you all so much for being here. And I hope
Senator Joe Comerford is the first Massachusetts State Senator. He's a Massachusetts State Senator for New Hampshire, Franklin, and Worcester districts. Joe feels transparency and accountability within public institutions are some of the necessary building blocks of a healthy democracy, and has filed bills to make our government, both in Washington, D.C. and right here in the Commonwealth, operate in an open and transparent fashion.
In 2016, and I was an organizer for Move On, when Trump won, we were stunned. Even though we said it was possible, even though we organized a United Against Hate campaign, we received the win like a staggering gut punch. 4 years later, we're stronger, we're sharper, we're more resolute. We understand the chasm of inequities that gave rise to Trump existed long before 2016. We know that Trump is a symptom of the pain we feel as a nation, not only just the cause. And so this morning we woke up early, I know many of you did, and continued the painstaking work at the local and state level to protect civil and human rights and people in Massachusetts, to pass the ROE Act, to pass the Family Work and Mobility Act, to reform policing, to advance health equity, to help workers in Main Street businesses, to fund education and human services and food security, and on and on. And then we gather tonight in Northampton and in hundreds of communities across the nation, and we will stay in the streets for as long as it takes to get the results and protect the results. We are tonight united. We are tonight united in our painstaking work of building anew, determined to forge a nation where honor and dignity can thrive for all, a place where everyone, every single person is valued. I'm grateful to be together with you this evening in the streets of Northampton and grateful to serve you on Beacon Hill. Thank you so much.
One of the good things about being an activist in the past few years is getting to meet people like Javier Lingo Guerrero. He's the coordinator for the Immigration Protection Project and organizer of the ACLU of Massachusetts.
Hi, good night. How are you? Good. Are you ready to keep fighting? Are you ready to be louder and louder and louder and keep fighting for not only for your rights, but also for every single person's right? Are you ready for that? I stand in front of you as a first-generation immigrant. As a brown person. As a person that has an accent. Every single characteristic that this administration fears. Every single characteristic that this administration has been trying to get rid of. We live in a white supremacist system. Trump hasn't passed new laws. He has taken advantage of this white supremacist system. There are things that need to change. Our system needs to change. Voter suppression didn't start with Trump. With Trump, went to the next level. LGBTQ rights were violated before Trump too, with Trump got to a total different new level. We need to keep fighting. Whoever it's elected needs to answer to you, needs to answer to us. Every vote counts. Every vote counts. Honestly, I didn't write any speech today. Yesterday, with my political director, Whitney Taylor, we were in Springfield from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. doing poll monitoring. We need to keep fighting. We need to keep working. Alone, we're not going to be able to do it. You are going to be able to do it together. Keep fighting. The ACLU will be with you, next to you. We will keep fighting. We will see Trump in court, and we'll see whoever violates our rights in court. Thank you so much.
Lindsay Sabadosa is the State Senator of Massachusetts. She works tirelessly helping to pass legislation on health care, workers' rights, criminal justice, and peace and justice.
Good evening. Good evening, Northampton, my city, my community, my friends. Thank you for being here tonight. Yeah, give yourself a hand. I want to take 1 second and ask you to do something. I want you to take a really deep breath and just breathe. Your presence, your hope, your work, and your passion are going to get us through whatever comes. In 2017, I helped organize the first Women's March. And a whole lot of you went on buses to DC, and you made a promise that when we had the next presidential election, that you would turn up, you would organize, you would phone bank, you would text, and you would make sure that the person we elected represented
at least in some small part, the values that our country purports to uphold. How many of you kept that promise? I'm here tonight to say thank you for that work. Thank you for everything you have done over these years, because that work is becoming fulfilled tonight as we watch those votes be counted. Those votes that you made sure were cast through your organizing and your phone banking and your texting and your passion and your commitment to make this country something better than what it is today. Now, I know that the election results are maybe not going to be exactly what we hoped for. Maybe we're not taking back the Senate. Maybe a few candidates that we wanted to see win didn't. But you're here tonight, and you'll be here tomorrow and the day after and the day after, until we develop and we organize to create the country we want to see and fill those offices with the people that we want in them. Because the reason that we are still waiting for Pennsylvania is because that state legislature passed laws that said that they couldn't count those votes before the election day. That's something that we didn't do here in Massachusetts. We wrote a better bill. Every office counts. Every vote matters. Every vote has to be counted tonight. And I look forward to celebrating and then to getting back to work. Thank you so much, beautiful, beautiful people of Northampton.
Thanks, Lindsay. Representative Mindy Domb represents the towns of Amherst, Pelham, and part of Granby in the State House. She's working to help those in need during this COVID pandemic by guaranteeing housing stability, among other issues, and supporting the women's rights by removing obstacles and expanding abortion access.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for letting me come into Northampton and join you tonight. And thank you, Deb, for not only inviting me, but for having the incredible foresight to organize tonight. I want to start out, it's like what an act to follow, my colleagues, all these fantastic, articulate, brilliant, passionate young people. Nothing I say will really hold a candle to what I've just heard, but I'll try. I want to first thank a couple of people. I want to thank Deb. I want to thank Elizabeth Silver. I want to thank Christina Maxwell for organizing phone banks for us. I want to thank all of us who participated in phone banks, text banks, writing letters, writing postcards, going to visit friends and relatives. I know we all did it, and I'm looking out at this beautiful group. I'm going to take my glasses off because, foggy. But I'm so grateful for all of our work, for all of your work. And I also want to say, when I was standing there, I looked around and I thought, a lot of things have changed in 2020, obviously. And when I looked out and I was saying, we can still demonstrate in 2020. We can still come out and protest on 2020. And we can still come out and make sure that every vote is counted and be healthy in 2020. So I want to thank you for that, because looking out at all of you, it's a reminder that even if we care and we understand that the virus is real, it doesn't have to stop us from expressing ourselves by voting or by protesting. So I have, this little bone to pick with about the whole mail-in voting and wanting to stop the counting when you're down and continue the counting when you're up. And I want us to remember that mail-in voting this year was designed so that people could vote and be healthy and be safe. And so I look at it and I say, well, I'm going to assume then that most people that voted early or by mail appreciate the fact that actually the pandemic is real. And that makes them not a Trump voter. So, you know, when they want to sort of limit the counts on those folks, on all our folks, it gets me mad. I was thinking on the way over here tonight, and I don't usually sort of talk about scenes from my life or, you know, sort of nostalgia, but I am nostalgic when I go to vote. I love voting. I think Election Day is like a celebration and a joy. I'm not happy that this year I saw in my home city of New York that they were boarding up stores in advance of Election Day. But I love voting. I used to love going into the voting booths. I don't know who remembers voting booths, but I used to bring my kids when they were there. I see people waving. And the voting booth was, you voted and you didn't feel like you were taking a test when you were voting. You didn't have to fill in a bubble form. You went literally into a booth, you closed the lever, the curtain went closed behind you, and it was just you and your ballot. And there were levers and you got to pull them. And when my kids were little, I used to bring them in with me, and I used to have them pull the levers. We used to talk about why those people were the people I wanted to vote for. And when it was done, I had them open it up with the lever going the other way. And that lever not only opened the curtain, but it recorded my vote. And I always felt like I'm being counted. And this year, more than any other year, I appreciate the fact that that was a privilege to think that way. That was a white privilege to think that way. This year, we are all of us are targets of voter suppression. And this year, we have to stand with the voters of Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and especially Pennsylvania. We have to stand with them, and we have to be hopeful with them. You know, I want to end with just one more note. There's an expression from the Jewish tradition that goes like this that I've been thinking a lot about in the past, 4 years. And it goes like this: the world is a narrow bridge, but the main thing is not to be afraid. We have to go forward without fear. We have to go forward with hope. We have to be patient, not particularly a quality that I'm known for. And we also have to stay engaged and take good care of ourselves. So please be safe and be healthy, and we'll continue to be in the streets together to make sure that every vote is counted. Thank you. I also want to just say that tomorrow, you're welcome to cross the bridge and go the other way. From 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., there will be another count every vote. I believe it's on the Common. And Amherst opens its arms and welcomes you. Thank you.
It's at 12 to 1 tomorrow in the Commons. And it's much easier to get over the bridge now with the rotary that they put in, so. And I remember that I used to go with my dad, and I used to beg him to let me pull the lever to close the curtain in Queens. The next speaker is Jennifer Taub. She's a legal scholar and advocate whose teaching and research focuses on corporate governance, banking, and financial market regulations, and white-collar crime. If you haven't already, order Jennifer's new, very timely book, Big Dirty Money: The Shocking Injustice and Unseen Cost of White-Collar Crime. White-collar crime, the issue has become worse since Donald Trump became president, she notes. According to one of the statistics she cites, an average of 1,000 defendants face federal charges for white-collar crimes on a monthly basis in 2011, compared to just 389 in 2019.
Amp this thing up a notch. Let's dial it up to, what is that thing? Over to 11. Folks, we won! I know Joe Biden can't come out and say that because he's trying not to be undignified and he's going to wait. But he has 270 and maybe more. We fired Donald Trump! Do everything we wanted. But Trumpism was not invented 4 years ago, and fascism
is very, very hard to beat. Accomplishing this alone makes it possible for us to even dream of America. So I just want you to take that in. Trump will fight, he will tweet, and he will leave the White House. And let me say another thing. We also kept the House of Representatives. And it's possible, it's not likely, it's possible, there's going to be a runoff in Georgia, maybe we can have a Senate majority, but even if we don't, there are some people we can work across the aisle with, and if we have learned anything from the Trump administration, being at that bully pulpit, writing executive orders, and being the face of America in the world has power, has meaning, and we won that. So let's celebrate for a moment. So, we've talked about where we've been. I just told you where we are. The numbers are coming in. Where are we going? Just like we all said, we're going to court. This will be in the courts. We've got lawyers who have been thinking and planning and writing briefs since this summer. Fortunately, I don't have to do that legal work. I shouldn't say fortunately, that is above my brain level and pay grade, but I know some of those lawyers, and I respect them dearly, and I am going to be watching their every move. I'm not getting into the nitty-gritty of that because it's going to be a lot of noise. We'll be following it, but ultimately, we have won. But what have we won? We've won a second chance. Yes. I have heard tonight, and I want to speak now as a white woman, I've heard tonight, and you know that we have problems in this country, and looking at the votes of white women and white men in this country in particular, after everything they have seen, to still support Trump and Trump's enablers is incredibly troubling. And I don't want to hear anyone say not all white women, not all white men. We have a problem, and anti-racism has to start with us. I don't have the answers. And it's not just about listening. It's about thinking what kind of America we want to be. And I think it's about listening to people who should be included in the conversation instead of going off to diners in Nebraska and listening to Trump voters. That's not what we need to do. Now, I want to say along this line before I close, we didn't just send Joe Biden to the White House. We are sending Kamala Harris there with us. And this is such a words. And it's hard because we have to be patient, and I don't like to be patient. But you know this thing about me, if you follow me on Facebook, I celebrate or I savor the small victories along the way. Well, this is one. We are sending Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to the White House, and our work will begin. And thank you. I want to give everybody a giant hug, and I'll see you on the other side of the legal wars.
I was checking out your Facebook page last night, Jennifer, and I was freaking out, and I thought you might have some insight. Next we have Bill Scher, and he's an American pundit and political analyst. He is a contributing editor to Political Magazine and a contributor to Real Clear Politics. He's also the author of the book, Wait, Don't Move to Canada, a Stay and Fight Strategy to Win Back America.
Thank you, everybody. Usually, when you're at a count every vote rally, the initial count is over, and you're losing, and you want to recount to make sure you get a chance to get back in the game. You don't want people to say that the race is over. So it's weird when you're winning, and the count isn't even finished yet, and it's Donald Trump, the person saying, don't finish the initial count. That's not how it's supposed to work. And it's ridiculous, it's pathetic, and it would be funny if it wasn't one more attempt at his authoritarianism. The upside is that he is a wannabe authoritarian. He is a failed authoritarian. And he failed because our institutions, as imperfect as they are, they bent at times, but they did not break. And what finished the job is, I think when all the votes do get counted, will be at least 75 million people coming together to say no more.
Yes. Yes. Oh, yes.
And as others have noted, we didn't have such a resounding victory that Trumpism had its back broken, that we can feel confident that it will never resurface again. But that is a reminder about how hard stopping this kind of authoritarianism is. And it is something to savor that 75 million people or more came together. People, this is a multiracial coalition. This is a multi-class coalition. These are people from the Northeast and the Southeast and the Midwest and the Southwest and the Far West coming together. These are people who don't agree on all the issues, or don't even agree what to do about all the issues, but realized there was a threat to the fabric of democracy and it had to be stopped. And so the challenge now is how to keep that coalition and build on that coalition to tackle all of these problems that are still staring us at the face. And the fact that we did this much should be a source of inspiration and hope that these other challenges in front of us can be addressed and be tackled in due course.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Trump doesn't want to be a lot of things, so kind of a failure at everything he gets his hands on. Next we have Miranda Groom. She's a program director at the Assistant Center for Peace and Justice.
Hi everyone, it's so good to be here with you all tonight and see so many familiar faces. Thank you so much, Deb, for organizing, for having me, and thank you to all of the speakers that have gone before me tonight. So, okay, I have some hard truths that I want to share with you all. As we run through all the possibilities in the days to come, I feel we owe it to ask ourselves, has the United States ever had a free and fair election? We are on stolen land. We are on stolen Nipmuc and Patumcup land, and this country was founded on genocide and built by slave labor. Those in power intentionally wrote Black, Indigenous, people of color, and women out of the electoral process. And white violence has intentionally kept that in place. As the results come in and we continue to reckon with the reality that white supremacy and racism is not a deal breaker for most people in our country, and the truth is it really never has been. This election cycle, like every election cycle, people experience voter suppression, particularly people of color. In Boston, someone set a ballot box on fire. Georgia cut polling places by 10% as voter registration was on the rise. Michigan residents received telephone calls saying their private information would be given to the police if they mailed in their ballots. And in North Carolina, Black voters marching to the polls with grandparents and children were pepper sprayed by police when they knelt on the road to honor George Floyd. This isn't unprecedented, this is by design. And throughout history, this suppression is often propped up and supported and carried out by those in positions of power, like the police. Regardless of the results, we are called to think critically about the state of this democracy. Who is this democracy working for? Who is it consistently and systemically leaving out? And if it's leaving so many people out, is it a democracy at all? The history of voter suppression in the United States is much like the history of this country. It's racist, bloody, and often largely undemocratic. And again, all of this on stolen land. Donald Trump is a threat to our communities. He's a threat to migrants, LGBTQ people, Black and brown people, poor and working class people, to all of us. He has caused irreversible harm, both to our neighbors here in the Valley and to folks abroad. His supporters are often known white supremacists and fascists. And now he is delegitimizing an already broken electoral process by threatening to claim victory before all the votes are counted. We need to protect each other from the chaos he fuels, while also recognizing that this white supremacy didn't start with him, and nor will it end when he leaves office. When we talk about going back to normal, we might ask ourselves, normal for who? We have to talk about what a Biden victory would mean and how we're going to hold him accountable, how we are going to make sure that our Black and brown neighbors are safe, and how we need to make sure that we have an international lens when we're looking at our politics and making sure not another bomb drops in Syria or Yemen. We're swimming in systemic white violence, and we need to commit ourselves to movement politics. Each of us exists outside the confines of this race and outside of electoral politics. At the Resistance Center, we've been committed to anti-war organizing for decades through both Republican and Democratic terms. Regardless of who sits in the White House, we know they will uphold U.S. imperialism, take money from weapons contractor, increase the military budget. Nearly 60% of the U.S. discretionary budget goes towards the military, while our communities do not have their basic needs met. After many months spent organizing around this election, we must recognize that the work that is going to keep our communities safe is the mutual care, deep relational organizing and movement building that's taken place every day before November 3rd and will take place every day after. We must radically dream of a future we want and think about the systems that need to be completely dismantled in order for us to get there. There's so many amazing grassroots campaigns and mutual aid efforts happening in our valley, including the Northampton Abolition Now group, who finished up an extremely powerful rally just before this one, organized by a couple teenagers that are incredibly powerful. Regardless of the results, we need to commit ourselves to these movements. This is an invitation for you to join us. We know we have a responsibility to each other and to this community. And while we've shown up today and will continue to show up until every vote is counted, our commitment to each other in the long term is what will bring us the freedom and power we need, regardless of the results. Thank you so much.
Joanini Herrera Diaz is an active member of Vote to Survive, a group that aims to provide information and advice during the U.S. 2020 election cycle.
Hi everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. So my name is Hawaii Herrera Diaz. I'm a recent graduate from UMass and started my political career. So for the past month, I have worked with the Vote to Survive organization. For those not familiar with the organization, it is a campaign that aims to increase youth engagement in the voting process, especially the young people in the battleground states. This month, we have worked hard constructing a website that is both user-friendly and informative. On the website, you can find maps that give you information on specific states, how they tend to vote, and if there is any local upcoming elections. You can also find information about progressive candidates that are running to be state representatives. The goal is to get young people thinking long-term about elections, because the fight is not yet over. We want to, and showing them that there are candidates out there who they can identify with and will speak for them. We have also been active on social media, sharing memes, videos, and information about how low the voter turnout was for the 2016 election. I am thankful that Tim Wallace and Vicki Elson brought me on and allowed me to work for the Vote to Survive organization. This has been an uplifting experience for me. To me, the Vote to Survive organization has been a way to release some of the anxiety that I had regarding this election. I understand that there are many things that I cannot control, but Vote to Survive was a way for me to use my voice and my skills to be an active voter. This election was not about standing still, because there is simply too much at stake. The motto for this election was, vote like your life depends on it, because it does. And I am proud to have been able to share that message. Thank you.
We're going to end with a prayer, but I just want to thank all the speakers, the safety monitors, the liaisons, and the police for supporting us today and keeping us a safe rally. Rabbi David Seidenberg is going to close with a prayer now.
Hi y'all. I live not too far from here, and my website is neochasid.org. If you want to find a version of this prayer in Hebrew, you can go to that website, Neohasid. So this prayer is being said by thousands of Jewish people and in congregations and in prayer groups and this kind of thing. And I'm going to read you most of the English, and I'm going to read you one part in Hebrew. And the Hebrew and the English of that part spells out Trump, but I didn't want to have that person's name in a prayer, so it just uses an acrostic to be T-R-U-M-P for the beginning of the words of each line. But you'll get that when you hear it. May it be the divine will that votes be counted faithfully. May you count all of our votes as if they were actions to seek peace and justice for this whole country. May it be the divine will that a person with a listening heart is elected today in this election. May it be good in the eyes and purpose of the cosmos, of the highest purposes for all of us, to raise a government that is good, that will bring healing, justice, and peace to all living in this land, to all the world, a government that will honor the image of God in all humanity, in every single life in person, and in the whole creation. I want to ask you all to think of something else you're going to do for the good of this community and this society now that doesn't have to do with voting. And you'll understand why in a second. Just as we are here today to ask for every vote to be counted, just as we have voted in the election to seek peace and justice, may we, in all of our actions, merit the privilege of seeking peace and justice through all of our works, in all of our acts, and also in the work that I just asked you all to think of, that we do more and take more steps every day, step by step. May we do this in behalf of all living creatures, for this whole creation. And I've added in Jewish idiom, in remembrance of the covenant of Noah's waters, to protect and to not destroy the earth and her plenitude. Here's the paragraph I mentioned to you. Tear out tyranny and despotism. Ruin those who cheat and deceive. Upend and overthrow those who oppress the vulnerable. Make the reign of the arrogant disappear from the land, and pulverize the plans of those who attack democracy. Obstruct them, humble them, bring on their downfall soon in our days. In Hebrew, Ti'aker tirunia of aritzut, u'tishaber rama im, u'tmalger oshken nitkaim, ta'avir memshelet zazon min ha'aretz, u'tisaker pogim b'demokratia, u'tafer tachbulatam, tichalem, end them, tashbilem, make them fall, tachniem, humiliate them, bimheravi amenu, and give to all the peoples of this country, those who vote with us and those who vote against us, may they have their eyes opened in a good way, the strength and will to pursue righteousness and to seek peace as a unified force, to uproot racism and violence, to make healing, good life, and peace flourish here and throughout the world, And may it be the divine will that the work of our hands is established and made real. And if I may ask you to say together, Amen. Thank you.
One more prayer, and then everybody can go home and get some rest, because we still have a lot to do to repair everything that's happened in the past 4 years. And there's some signs too, if anybody wants to take one.
For those just tuning in now, my name is Jackson Cote. I'm a reporter with MassLive, and I'm here in downtown Northampton, Western Massachusetts, reporting on a protest that has been organized the day after the November 3rd general election. Many of the people speaking here, there have been high schoolers, young adults, activists, state representatives, including Mindy, Domb, Lindsay, Sabadosa, State Senator Joanne Comerford as well, who've all been speaking at this protest, calling for a fair election, calling for all ballots to be counted. Their demands are coming during a time where there's a lot of election uncertainty. Many key swing states in this presidential election are still being counted. Ballots in those states are still being counted. And I'm at the tail end of this protest here with a prayer to close out the night. And it's just worth noting that this is the second protest to be organized in Northampton just today alone. There's a protest organized earlier today at 3 p.m., about 2 hours before this one started, that called generally for various, social justice causes. This one is mainly focused on having a fair presidential election this time around. Again, my name is Jackson Cote, reporting for MassLive, signing off.